Hello everyone, welcome once again to my class on copy editing. In today's class, we shall be discussing about bias and parochialism in textbooks. Now, what exactly do you mean by bias? Bias means to be influenced or prejudiced for or against one person or a group. And parochialism refers to a state of mind whereby one focuses on small sections of an issue rather than considering its wider context. Now, both bias and parochialism are sensitive areas because individual authors and publishers will have their own strong opinions about the usages in the textbooks. Now, as a copy editor, you should be aware of the different kinds of bias and parochialism, but you should not try to impose your own preference against the wishes of the authors or publishers. Now, if you discern a major problem in the textbook, then it is better to discuss it with the commissioning editor before tackling it with the author. So, who exactly is a commissioning editor? A commissioning editor is the editor who commissions authors or journalists to write books. So, if you have a problem, if you perceive a problem, then it is better to discuss it with the commissioning editor. Now, where exactly can you find bias? You can see bias, or it can be shown. Bias can be shown either in the situation portrayed or by the words that are used. Now, in textbooks and creative writing, people should be treated as people. A particular race, sex, or an age group should not be stereotyped, or it should not be given a leading role or a secondary role. If that is done, then you understand that the textbook is biased against a particular section. Now, it is the duty of the copy editor to check whether both men and women, members of racial minorities, disabled, or people from different religions, you need to see to it that they are portrayed in a wide range of jobs and at all levels. Suppose a particular group is shown as performing only a particular job, then you understand that the textbook is stereotyped. Okay, it is trying to stereotype a particular section. So there you can find bias, or you understand that the author is biased against a particular section. So as a copy editor, it is your duty to check whether there is any type of bias in the textbook. Now, you should also verify whether boys and girls from different countries are shown as interested in all subjects. Sometimes girls will be shown as interested only in particular subjects. Then again, it's an instance of bias. Okay, now along with the text, you should also make sure that the illustrations provided are also free of bias. Now let's talk about inclusive language used in the textbooks. Now, many publishers ask authors to use inclusive language and to avoid bias. Now, if you feel that the author has not used inclusive language, or the author has used non-neutral words in his textbook, then as a copy editor, you can suggest examples of the change proposed to the author rather than making the change yourself, because the author is the best person suited to reword the text. So you can suggest examples of the kind of change proposed to the author, but do not make the changes on your own. Now, a best book to overcome this sexist language or the use of non-neutral words is Miller and Swift's The Handbook of Non-Sexist Writing for Writers, Editors, and Speakers. So the authors may be unconsciously using sexist language or non-neutral words. So this book will help the authors to overcome such problems. Now, let's talk about the use of pronouns. Let's see how these pronouns can even be biased. For example, in certain texts, you see the use of he or his in order to refer to both men and women or both male and female. Okay, so where just he or his appear, it can be replaced by he or she or his or her. Let's check an example for that. When the author returns his corrected proof. Okay, so there the author is referred to as his. Okay, although the author or the writer actually meant both his and her when the person used his. As a copy editor, you can change that into when the author returns his or her corrected proof, or it can be written as when authors return their corrected proofs. Another way of writing it will be when the author returns the corrected proof. So these are the ways in which you can avoid being biased. Now, in certain cases, we or you can also be substituted. For example, if a customer is dissatisfied with the service in a shop, he should complain to the manager. That could be rewritten as if we are, or it can be you are, or it can even be one is. Dissatisfied with the service in a shop, we should complain to the manager. Or it can be rewritten in this manner: a customer who is dissatisfied with the service in a shop should complain to the manager. Now, I have already told you that when he or his is used, it should be replaced by he or she or his or her. But then there are many authors who consider it to be quite inelegant and unacceptable to use he or she in alternate chapters. And also, there are certain historical, cultural, and social contexts where you will have to specifically use he or she. For example, before a particular period or before a particular date, that might differ from country to country. For example, before a particular date, a voter was always he, because during that time, women did not have the right to vote. For example, in France, women gained the right to vote only in 1946. So before that, when you talk about a voter, it was always he. And a society described by an anthropologist, all the marriage brokers uh, as all the marriage brokers as she or her, because during that time all the marriage brokers were women. Now let's talk about neutral nouns. According to or theoretically, all words which are neutral should be used neutrally. But unconsciously, writers might use non-neutral words also. And as a copy editor, you are supposed to make changes when you perceive such usage by the author. For example, authors usually dedicate their books to their wives. Now, unconsciously, the writer has associated authors with uh, men. Okay, now another one is women engineer, male cleaner. These are all non-neutral words. So whenever such words are used by the author, it should be changed. Now, man and its compounds can usually be replaced without resorting to person. For example, man or M capital man can be replaced by using the word people or we, or it can also be replaced by human beings, or to man can be replaced by to stuff. Mankind can be replaced by the human race. Man hour can be replaced by work hours. So, by using such terms, you are trying to use neutral nouns. Now, let's talk about parochialism. As I've already told you, parochialism is actually a state of mind where you focus only on a very small section of an issue or a society, and you are not very much considerate of its wider context. For example, you're talking about a book that has been published in Britain, okay, and you are concerned only about the British reading public, then that is an example of parochialism. But as a copy editor, you should also, especially when you are copy editing information books, think of readers from other countries as well. Okay, for example, if it is a book that has been printed in Britain, but if it has a wider implication, or if you think that there can be readers from other countries as well for the same book, then you should bring about changes in the use of certain terminologies. For example, this country, which is used in the textbook, can be replaced by Britain, because you are addressing to readers from other countries as well. Our can be replaced by to British. The Great War can be replaced by the First World War. The last war can be replaced to the Second World War. In the last few years can be replaced by to the early 21st century. Now, proper names should be spelled correctly: Pearl Harbor, Lincoln Center, Australian Labour Party, etc. Now, in textbooks, particularly school books, if it contains references to British money, radio, television programs, etc., and if you think that, again, this textbook will be read by people from other countries, especially by children, then try to bring about changes so that it will be suitable for use overseas as well, because certain television programs that are broadcasted only in Britain will not be familiar to readers from other countries. So wherever you can bring about changes, bring about such changes, because then it will be suitable for use overseas as well. So it, as a copy editor, it is your duty to check into all these matters. Now, American and British terms may be kept unless they are likely to cause confusion. Now, let us look for certain words that are likely to cause confusion. For example, to protest in American language means to protest against something, whereas in British it can also mean to protest that something is true. To slate means to put on a list. In British, it means to criticize severely. To table means to set aside a motion rather than discuss it. In British, it means to put a motion down for discussion. So these are certain words that are likely to cause confusion because they have different usages in British and American English, and try to change those terms if it is likely to cause confusion. Now, quiet is also an ambiguous term, particularly in British English, because it can mean both moderately as well as wholly. So make sure that the sense is very clear. Also, avoid abbreviations that are meaningless outside the UK. For example, you might come across words like LSE or tube um, in a textbook. in a British textbook. And it might not mean anything to a reader outside the UK. For example, LSE means London School of Economics, and Tube refers to London Underground Railway System. So these words may not be clear to overseas readers. In such cases, try to change those words. Also, do not use phrases like in the spring of 1987 if the season has no relevance in the text. So it can be rewritten as early in 1987. So these are the few points that I wanted to make on bias and parochialism in copy editing. So I hope you have understood what we have discussed in this video. We shall be meeting again with another topic in our next video. Till then, thank you.